So I'm getting like some radio feedback. I don't know if anybody else is hearing that.
I'm good here, Todd.
Let me see if it's me. No, I still hear it. Big deal though. Sally, are you in Arizona as well?
I am. Yeah, I'm in Central Phoenix.
Okay.
Really liking it. We actually got some rain the last week. That was very exciting. We needed a good drenching. So, I'd been here for over a year, and I think that was like some of the only days I saw it. So it was a welcome change.
It is the desert.
Well, this is
Just live
true.
it up to its name.
Exactly. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Happy to have you. I think we're just getting settled in here, so I'll give everybody a second to connect. All right. Well, it's a couple minutes past the hour. I know we have a couple people on YouTube I see already. Hey there, out there in YouTube land.
Hello.
Wanted to welcome everybody to the Pragmatic Institute AMAs. This is our Ask Me Anything office hours that we hold every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern with a different pragmatic instructor. And today we have the pleasure of having Mr. Todd Middlebrook. Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hello, everybody.
Thanks for being with us. I see Eric popped in. Hey, Eric. Good to see you. And before we dive in, we've had some pre-submitted questions, but as always, we want to give a quick shout out to our PAC. This is the Pragmatic Alumni Community. We're so proud of this community and everything that it's really accomplished its inception. We're also excited to announce that we are now award-winning community. We were gifted the Higher Logic Superform 2020 Award for most successful online community. And we also just hit 1,000 members. We're growing so rapidly. And so it's just very exciting times for us. And, as you know, at Pragmatic, we are not only your trainers, but your dedicated partners for life. So no matter how you train with us, this is included in that training. You get lifetime access into this Pragmatic alumni community. And I can't tell you just enough about the resources, the peer-to-peer engagement, et cetera. So definitely check that out. You can do so at pragmaticinstitute.com/community. Now let's get to it. So as always, we do have those questions that are submitted prior to. We always want to hear from you folks on the call. And we now have a new promotion where we are having lunch on us, right? The best live question will receive lunch on us, so you can get that favorite salad, grab that best high dish or that lunch special that you've been craving. And in the meantime, we will choose that winner at the end of the discussion. But Todd, can I toss you your first question?
Well, Eric's in the lead already.
Eric is in the lead already. Actually, Todd, I might want to group these two. Here, this one comes from Samuel, and then Madeline had a question as well, and I kind of feel like the advice that you give them will probably be relevant for both cases. So I'll read both of these questions off to you. This first one comes from Samuel, and he says, "How can I best use exploratory research for my biggest benefit? I understand that it helps us understand buyers and users and their various pain points, but are there any other interesting ways to utilize it?" And then with that, Madeline kind of has something similar where she says, what are some creative ways that I can hear more from our quiet 80% that go beyond just surveys? And then she leaves a cute, sweet note here. She says, "It's a short and sweet question, but I love these sessions. So useful. Thanks." That comes from Matt.
You're right. In fact, the first question is kind of the answer to the second question. In general, we're talking about using, call it ethnographic studies, call it discovery research. But the idea is, rather than conducting a survey, which the way we typically do them, they're closed-ended questions. We're trying to prove something that we believe and validate it. You can use surveys as open-ended questions and still make them discovery. But ethnographic studies, it's what has been taught historically for uh, uh, let's see, Jane Goodall did ethnographic studies. She observed chimpanzees and and discovered what their social groups are like and how do they eat and how do they mate. And she learned all those things, not in a textbook. She didn't come up with theories and then go prove it, but she went out there in the field and through observation learned new things. That's why it's sometimes called discovery research. And that's how we refer to it in the pragmatic classes. Um, and speaking of usage, what can you do with that data? It's unlimited. You don't know what you don't know. You by conducting and there's observation as the Jane Goodall example, conducting interviews again, but not coming up with a bunch of interview questions. It says, Callie, which of these 5 options do you prefer? Sarah, Eric, which of these of options would you select? It is going in and asking about them, uh, and then listening, actually asking follow-up questions with the goal of what was the name of the first person who
That's Samuel, Todd.
Sam said, I know that this is good at helping me understand my users, create user personas, to understand my buyers, to create buyer personas. Yeah, it's a way to understand your market better than you do today, especially if your target markets are people that you are not. I've never been a doctor, but I'm in a situation to create medical solutions. I've never lived in Germany, but we're creating a solution for that market. It's like how can I learn about them to ultimately make decisions to create a product that they would want to buy, that would be useful. So discovery, whether you do it in interviews or through observation, is trying to learn new things, to see patterns and characteristics that represent your market. But to me, the most exciting usage is to find problems to solve in your product. We often are relying on our own innovative thought, our own creativity to come up with products. And we are a good sample of the demographic that we represent. We're not a good sample maybe for some other target market. So if you've got an idea of a target market, you don't want to project your thoughts of what are their needs. You can go out and discover their needs. You can understand their environment. Uh, Designers do ethnographic studies because they not only want to develop the right use cases, how would somebody use our product, but they could understand the environment in which people are using the product. Are they using it indoors? Are they using it outdoors? Are they using it occasionally or 17 times a day? Well, go understand them and their problems and how often does that problem occur? You know, do they experience it once in a lifetime? Do they experience it 17 times a day? Uh, is it a problem that is unique to an individual, or is it something that is what we would call a market problem, something that's pervasive in our market? So, uh, I often get asked a different question: do you prefer discovery research or quantitative validation research? And it's kind of like saying, which child do you prefer? You're older, you're younger, and you would say, well, I love them each for their uniqueness. And discovery is great to learn new things. Validation is good to prove things and to quantify them. They don't do the same thing. So it's really, I believe, in a combination or kind of the yin and yang. But
Yeah.
I think discovery research is so simple yet so rarely practiced. That that knowledge is out there for the discovery if we go out and listen for it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that that's, certainly helpful. I mean, I think it's always hard. It's like our noisy 20 so in our face, but how do we, get that quiet 80 in a creative and innovative way? So,
And and I didn't touch on that that terminology, quiet 80. There's the customers that tell you things, right? That provide you feedback, that are willing to take a meeting or open up an entry on your voice of the customer mechanism or enhancement request. But what about, do they represent the rest of your market, or are they just giving you unique feedback that is relevant to them? Does it represent what the rest of the market want? We call that rest of the market the quiet 80%. What could conceivably be the majority of the population that's not volunteering, telling you about themselves or providing you feedback. So key to the pragmatic framework is going out and trying to find those quiet voices, and again, listening to them, and maybe they match what the noisy 20% is saying. Maybe the 80% is very different. You don't know, and you don't have to gamble. You can find out.
I'm excited for this next one because when I, took my pragmatic training, I always liked the topic of will I versus which one. And Ray has a question about it. So Ray asks, I just finished 3 of my pragmatic courses, and one of my favorite topics was the will I versus which one discussion. Go Ray. When making buying decisions, can you talk a bit more about them and maybe even provide some additional real life examples?
Okay. So these questions represent really the psychological question that a buyer's making when they are buying a product, when they are considering buying a product. And the will I uh, is where we tend to start. Well, it's where we start. If you have a need, or maybe somebody is describing a product to you prior to you identifying the need, what we tend to do is we listen to the description of that product, or we read, or what does it do, and what we ask ourselves, I mean, as consumers, will I buy one of these? What you're really saying is, do I see inherent value? Is this going to be? Do I see use for this? Uh, is it? Does it solve a problem for me that I can't solve today? Or is it better than the way I do this today? And if we hear about a product or read about a product and we don't see value in it, we answer that question, will I buy that? No. Why? Because I don't see what it does for me. I mean, it really comes down to that. Um, if they answer yes to that question, some may buy, meaning there may or may not be a competitive solution available. There may be. So what they basically said, this category of product I see as useful. But they may say, well, who are the different companies that make one of those? And let me go select. It's like, hey, I would like to watch Formula One racing on a high definition screen. Sorry, I know that was obscure to everybody, but it's the only sport that I follow. I don't follow football or anything like that. But hey, I want a big screen TV. So I basically at some point have said, will I buy a big screen TV? Do I see value in having that in my home? If I just buy the first one that I see, that would be a will I. But most cases, there are competitive alternatives, and the person will turn and go, well, let me go shop for the best 65-inch high definition TV. Is it the Sony? Look at me, the Samsung or whatever. Let me kind of do the comparisons. And this is where we get to the question that we say, which one? I've already decided I see value in this type of product. I'm now looking at the differences in the options available to me to find which one I will buy. So believe it or not, there may be a situation where, well, maybe it's a brand new innovative product. If it's the first product of its kind, When the market hears about it, they're all here making the will I decision. Does that sound good to me? Would I buy one of those? There, in that case, there may be no competitive, right? They have to, the first iPhone would be a good example of that. Hey, this new smartphone category with no keyboard, will I buy one of those? If yes, you had to buy the iPhone. But there may be a situation where there are competitors available. They could go shopping for which one's the best one, but they may not. One of the TV scenario is a real one that I went through last summer. I actually bought a new TV. If you guys have ever gone to a store and bought a major appliance, you might recall after you've decided which one you want to buy, what's the person at the store ask you? Callie, do you need an HDMI cable for that? Or my personal favorite, Sarah, would you be interested in hearing about the store warranty on that appliance? Now, look, there's a section in the store where they've got HDMI cables. You're sitting there talking to the salesperson, and what you're asking yourself, oh, do I need an HDMI cable? Yeah, I'm buying a new TV. Very likely, most will say, yeah, I do need one. You didn't go, now let me walk down the aisle and pick the best one for my needs. So it may be possible to create situations where we can get our buyers to see the inherent value and immediately buy our product. Convenient accessories is the example that I just gave with the HDMI cable. There may be some immediate need. Many years ago, we went on vacation and we rented a jet ski. And when we got to the dock, there was a big sign that said, no open toe shoes. I looked down at my son and he's wearing flip-flops. And I also knew that I couldn't cancel my reservation without losing all my money. But don't worry, there was a convenience store right there at the dock. And guess what? They sold little boy water shoes. Anybody want to guess what I paid?
I bet it was painful.
Almost $40 for, yeah. So will I's, I mean, you might, hey, there's a sense of urgency, or you've got the flu, you're in the airport. These are will I's situations, even though there may be 17 different varieties of cough syrup available, they may only have one. Now, what's inherent there is people tend to be a little bit less price sensitive when it's a will I, right? You're like, how much is that cough syrup? How much are those little boy shoes? Like I said, nearly $40. And I could have gone to the store in town and gone shopping and done a which one and probably paid 15, maybe $10. But so as product professionals, we're looking for ways, products that may have no competitive offerings, of course, innovative products, or if we could create situations where even though they could look for alternatives, the buyer doesn't, and they stop at that which one, because they get more price sensitive when it's a which one or a choice between us versus some other equivalent. These are very long answers to very short questions. Sorry.
No, I love it's some of my favorite stuff, so I could talk about it all day because it is fascinating, and especially like sometimes there's that gray area, that we talk about in class as well. But it's interesting, Todd, that you talked about, competitive. We touched on competitive because this Benji, who's actually written in before, I believe, had a question about competitive landscape. So he asks, what are some ways I can research the competitive landscape a bit more and help my product teams best maintain the ultimate product market fit?
Ah, so this is a topic that I love. So much of my career has been focused on competitive strategy. Um, Often what we think about is our product versus the competition, right? Can we evaluate their product and come up with we've got these features that they don't have. What features do they have that we don't have? That kind of thing, which I don't find particularly valuable in and of itself. But look, selling against a competitor. You want to know, who are they selling to? Who are they not selling to? You want to know what fields of battle that they're going after. Yes, as well as knowing what are the strengths and weaknesses of your products versus theirs. So I'm obviously, if it's legal, meaning if there's no licensing restrictions, you can do technology evaluations to get part of that picture. But obviously, you can go to industry analysts. Gartner's got Magic Quadrants. Um, but I find, if you really want to understand the market's view of you versus the competitors, is go to the people that have recently done an evaluation. That is somebody who has recently either bought your product or they chose the competitor's product. What I'm getting to is win-loss analysis. If you can talk to people that have recently made this decision in your favor or in the competitor's favor, you can take what could have been featureless, that hundreds of features and differences, but really get down to the buyer. What did you consider? What did you see when you looked at their product versus ours? They probably saw pros and cons in each. They try to pull those out and understand what those differences are, and ultimately what differences tip the scale for you or in the favor of the competition, those meaningful differences. First and foremost, if you're not doing win-loss analysis, you're really missing out on the market's perspective of you versus them. By the way, if you are a which one product, right? That these are situations where you're a which one. This understanding the differentiators between our product and their product feeds back to, if I'm in a which one, how do I price my product versus the competitor's product that's equivalent? But that's a bit of an aside. So win-loss first and foremost. But I'll tell you some areas that have been helpful for me throughout my career. Go to your competitor's website, which I know you already do. But this time, I don't want you to go to the product section or the solution section. What I would like you to do is go, they probably have some section of their website with job postings, right? The roles that they're looking to fill. And if you want to figure out where is your competition going, that can be an amazing indicator. Maybe they're hiring a developer with mobile app experience. My competitor doesn't have any mobile apps. Well, then why are they hiring somebody? Um, are they hiring a new business lead with experience in XY industry? Hey, that's not an industry they've historically focused on. They're probably hiring today for where they're going tomorrow, both technologically as well as from a business focus. And then, of course, if they're publicly traded companies, you can go read their financial statements. Their annuals are particularly interesting because they start with their mission statement all the way down to what are our goals this year? How are we going to grow? Which markets are we going to go? What products are we going to invest in? Where do we see, how are we going to create shareholder value going forward? And it can give you the horizon that your competition's pointing at. And of course, you can take all that info, compare it to what it is you're planning on doing.
That's so smart. I know it sounds so simple, but I wouldn't even have thought of that. But yeah, it's information at your fingertips, right? It's just about where to find it.
I won't name the competitor, but I once went to my competitor's website, and there was a posting for a security architect. And it read something like, our last release was a security nightmare. Specifically, we're looking for a security architect that knows how to fill, buffer overflow issues, remote. And you're like, are you kidding me? Because you think my job postings are vetted by HR, right, for anti-discriminatory practices, but rarely is HR technology savvy enough to go, should we be saying that? Right. So I haven't found too many that were as egregious as that example, But yeah, little things that you can parse out by reading those.
That's great. Um, so here is another one for you, Todd. This one comes from Ronald. Surrounding go-to-market strategy. Ronald would like to speed up his go-to-market strategy with this latest product launch that they're about to come out with. Is there a place that he can cut corners, so to speak, or better yet, what should he be most focused on to accomplish this goal?
Do more with less, right? That's the mantra that we all have to live with. And if we can not waste time, not waste money, uh, it's kind of humorous the way he wrote it, but that should always be our goal for any of our marketing efforts, to be as efficient as possible and shave a corner that needs to be shaved. I I wish this person was on the phone there. I've got 100 questions that would really help me give you a more direct answer, but I'll say that, something as important as a product launch, any campaign that we're launching, I think the first, probably the biggest waste that we get is we basically take our marketing effort and we shoot at our market with a shotgun. And we were trying to hit as many targets as possible with this blast of energy. Sorry, guys, I live in Texas, so it was like everything turns into a gun metaphor. Uh, and did we hit a target with that pebble? Did we hit it? We try to spread ourselves too thin. So my recommendation, if you're not already, is really think about what are the business goals for this product launch. That's a fundamental question. What are we trying to accomplish? And you know, well, we want people to know about the product. What people? Well, how do we want to sell more of the product? Which people? I want you to really segment your market and think about, not just the industry that you're going after, the geography, but to really start segmenting those populations into groups that you could target to. Now, if you've done a good business analysis, knowing your target market segment, maybe we know we can put all of our energy there. But if there's a lot of different segments that you could target with a market effort, what I would like to recommend is you evaluate them, that you look at them and go, which of these are the best ones? We've got this business goal to grow revenue, to steal market share from the competition, whatever that goal is. Where could we best achieve it? Where could we most quickly achieve it? You're not launching a product to planet Earth. Apple doesn't launch the iPhone to planet Earth. They segment the markets and they launch the product geographically. They do segmentation and say, okay, we're first going to, and I'm making this up, I don't know their actual launch plan, but they first launch the product to, for example, North America. And they've got clear goals that they want to achieve there. And then they turn around and they launch and put all their energy at, maybe Western Europe or China. I want you to really think it through of where, back to Texas, where can we get the biggest bang for our marketing buck, right? Let's concentrate our energy. And so it really is about evaluating, hey, have we targeted them before? We've got no brand recognition here, but we do there. Do we have the skill sets, the knowledge? Do we know those buyers yet? Versus if, we historically have targeted this market, but maybe we're going to have to put more energy and investigation going after like a new market segment. Maybe I'm not saying you may not eventually want to launch your product to planet Earth, but do it segment at a time, goal at a time. That way, it's more of shooting a bullet at a target as opposed to bird shot, hoping you hit a target.
You do have some good Texasisms going on
I
there,
do.
Todd.
I probably use more gun metaphors today than I have in the last 10 years.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm loving it. And actually, Eric had a question that I wanted to pick your brain about, Todd. And then I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, Eric. But feel free to come off mute and follow up if you'd like. But basically, Eric says, and it's interesting. We just had Dave West for our recent product chat, and we talked about product roles, right? Like they're so different throughout each industry and throughout each, company, et cetera. And, Eric said, look, over the past 10 years, he's experienced that pattern with new software engineers that kind of join these product teams and they don't know what a product manager is or what they do, and et cetera. So, I think that the issue comes with, that these people are kind of these directors not knowing what these roles are, basically start creating responsibilities that are really like counterproductive for what they should be doing and owning. And, Eric was just curious, how common is the situation and what more can he kind of do to help clarify?
Eric, I can sympathize and empathize with the situation you're bringing up. Uh, most organizations at some point figure out that they need product management, right? And they either hire new people in the role or they promote people. Callie, I don't know if it was specifically in his question, but you alluded to maybe they recruit somebody from engineering and make her wear the product manager hat. I got pulled out of technical sales. I was an SC, sales engineer, to become a product manager. So they know that they need somebody to have that title, but they don't quite know what to do with them. And so the job description often will get defined kind of based on where they came from. So, for example, technical engineers end up becoming technical product managers often, and their roles are defined of we want you to help the development team build the product. Like that kind of sounds like a development role more than it sounds like a product management role. The trap that I got stuck in was having come from sales. I ended up spending a vast majority of my time in my early career helping sales win big deals on my product, buying my product. And so I think, Eric, your question is getting down to how do I define the roles and responsibilities? How do I get clarity with my leadership? How do I get them to understand what the purpose of product management is, and then ultimately define objectives for my role that would make sense? And since you're on the line, can you tell us in chat or verbally? Is that kind of really the
Sure.
gist of your question?
Yeah, you hit it. I mean, I was a programmer developer, and then I ended up being product manager for developer products, right? But I got out of that role of engineering. But yeah, I mean, in a sense, my management in this new company I've been at with 2 years, yeah, definitely knew it's time for us to turn the corner, and we need a product manager. I'd known this guy, and so as soon as I brought it in. I bring in with the pragmatic framework with me wherever I go. And yeah, it was more like a clash of this understanding of, oh, okay, we know we need a product manager, and we know you've done things with this other company before this. And um, but then they put me in charge of their ultimate goal was put me in charge of the development team, to be the programmer lead. No. That's actually counterproductive to what I really wanted to.
Yes,
It's counterproductive actually for the company, right? You don't, and
it
so,
is.
so I end up wherever I've been, whatever divisions I've worked at different companies, I've had to evangelize what a product manager is,
Yeah.
and it still hasn't been sticking. And so I was just looking for some tips to um, do better at my evangelism of what the role really is, and how to step lightly and with sensitive CTOs that have some egos that and how do you navigate those waters a little bit. But I think I hear over your conversations over these sessions, I think I hear partly it's me. I got to get better at showing that this is the evidence that makes the role important for your company to grow. It's not about the one person, it's about the process, right? And so anyway, I'll shut up and let you go.
Well, Erica, just while I've got you on the horn, the evangelism is obviously the right place to start, and is a continuing effort. So starting with the framework, kind of using it, hey, product management, product marketing are very, very broad, different areas here, which I imagine you've already started with. Um, I was just thinking as you were talking, if they hire like somebody to be, head of services, there's no confusion about what they're responsible for. If they hire somebody to be a salesperson, hey, you should be out selling. But you hire somebody to be a product manager and they don't quite know what to do with them. They've got some preconceived notions. So that aside, what I would also do, you mentioned it, hey, this is the evidence that will help us make good decisions. You may have to fight for it. They may have you in the more tactical, the more execution. They may have you, crossing over into development, or like me in sales. But you've got to go, okay, I've got to show my organization the value of real product management, the value to this organization to help us do the right things in product, the right things in go-to-market strategy. And I would just encourage you to bring in uh, market data. Market data, if there's a decision that we are trying to make, you may have to, steal the time to try to get it, to go do an interview or two. And I would keep your objectives really, really simple. Not doing 100 interviews. I could go do, 3 interviews of our customers to figure out whether this is the right thing to do. If you can start bringing some fact in uh, and show a pattern that, hey, we made a good decision based on what the market told us. Why don't I go get more of that? But right now, they see the tactical benefit that they might get out of you, but do they see the strategic benefit? Well, no, until you show it to them.
Got it. Fantastic.
I think you're on the right path.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Good luck, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Eric.
Oh, and by the way, best question asked live all day long.
It's the only question asked live all day long.
That's beside the point, Eric. You're in the lead.
Well, yes, and I wanted to interject. I noticed that we did have a couple people watching on YouTube Live who did send in a couple of questions. But guys, we do want to just encourage you to come in. I mean, as we've kind of seen in this example, right? There's so much food for thought and exchange, and really, opportunity to kind of dive deeper into these questions and really get to the root of what people are dealing with, and so we can kind of cater and tailor those answers. So. Again, we encourage you guys to come live, bring those questions. We want to engage, we want to chat. And again, that person wins lunch on us. So Eric, you'll have to let us know what tasty dish you have. You have to bring a picture next time.
Thank you, will do.
Great. Well, Todd, I know we're wrapping up here. Do you have time for one more? I feel like Jim really needs your advice here.
Sure.
Okay, so Jim, I feel like he needs some advice. He needs some either validation or support. But he says, how acceptable is it to revamp our roadmap 4 times in the last 6 months? I know that they are more informal than release plans, and I'm more concerned in putting out the best product, but how much is too much? Can you give him a little pep talk?
That's too much. I'm sorry. I couldn't help laughing. 4 times in 6 months?
4 times in 6 months.
So let's unpack it just real quickly. You're right. A roadmap's not a release plan. We should be flexible, in our roadmaps. But 4 times in 6 months, that is my knee-jerk reaction to that is a lack of strategy. That is, we love that word pivot. That's a lot of pivoting. That is pivoting where we get whiplash, pivoting. We don't know where we want to go, and we're desperate to find should we do this? Oh, look, oh no, maybe over there. And I don't know how dramatic these changes to the roadmap are, but if I can kind of relate it back to the advice I just gave to Eric is, let's listen to our market. Let's find opportunities. If we've got a pivot opportunity, let's go. If it's something that we came up with, some innovative idea, let's go to our market and validate with them. Hey, if we were to build an XYZ, would that solve a real problem? Can we try to get some validation in that way? And then, like the advice to Eric is, can we be bringing in new ideas? Can we be bringing evidence of things that not just what we could do, but what should we do? Develop a strategy, not have a reactive strategy. But I just have these visions of the environment described there. That sounds like there's probably a lot of opinions coming in. Sales thinks we should do this, the CEO thinks we should do that, the CTO, and we're famous for our rule. Your opinion, although interesting, is irrelevant. If you're just using your opinion and you're trying to argue with the VP of sales whether we should do that, or you're trying to argue with the CEO, they're going to win that argument because their opinion weighs more than yours. But if you can go bring in market facts to help us, again, decide not just what could we do, but what should we do. And if we're staying plugged in with our market over the long term, it doesn't mean that we don't need to change our roadmap in some dramatic fashion. I think it's safe to admit to everybody out there, the Pragmatic Institute product roadmap of today is radically different than it looked before the pandemic, as I'm sure many of yours are, right? You need to be able to pivot and adapt, but that type of pivoting 4 times in 6 months may be a little much.
Is there ever a time where like, okay, you should keep revamping your roadmap if X happens, if Y happens? Is there ever like an opportunity where maybe it makes sense?
Well, I'm just thinking every month and a half may be a little much, but what are we doing next? What are we doing in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months? I think we need to give ourselves an opportunity to pursue our roadmap and finish something. But to answer your question, Callie, again, I'll just use Pragmatic as the example. We've altered our roadmap probably about 3 times this year. Oh, the pandemic will be over in a couple of months. Okay, maybe it'll be over by Christmas. Maybe, right? You need to take in the realities of the world and adjust accordingly. But this, and I may be reading too much into it, really feels like dramatic changes. I've been learning sailing over the last couple of years. Okay, learning is probably over. And I tend to tack back and forth because I'm a little bit insecure if I'm doing things right. And I look at those sailors in our races have been doing it for much longer, and boy, they stay on their course much longer and they think it through, where they don't have to do 3 different tacks back and forth. I think they can get in one. Probably
a great visual.
Okay.
Well, Todd, we've hit our time. We always appreciate you. We always appreciate you lending us your expertise, your brain, for the 45-minute sessions that we get to chat. So we appreciate that. And then, just want to give a mention to our next product chat. This takes place.
Best question, Eric.
Woo! Best question goes to Eric. Eric, thank you for that. And hopefully you can catch our next product chat. We're doing that Tuesday, February 9th at 1:30 p.m. ET. And that's what we'll be welcoming. Basically, our discussion is on crafting profitable marketing content for your customers' perspective. So, a bunch of leading thought leaders that are going to have that discussion. We've had some great turnouts for those, so we hope you can make it. If not, you can always watch those recordings on our YouTube channel. So in the meantime, Todd, thank you again. Eric, thank you. Be on the lookout for lunch on us, and we'll see everyone next week.
Bye, everybody.